So this is the video for section 12.2, and in section 12.2 we're going to learn how to multiply matrices. And the process of multiplying matrices, it's not a hard or difficult process, but it is extremely tedious and extremely easy to make a mistake. Okay, so we can't just multiply any matrices together, okay? There's some stipulations that we have to have. So in order to be able to multiply two matrices, the number of columns in matrix A is equal to, or it must be equal to, the number of rows in matrix B. Okay, and if this is the case, then we can multiply A times B. If it is not the case, then we cannot multiply these two matrices. Okay, so if A is an M by N matrix and B is an N by P matrix, then the matrix product AB is a M by P matrix. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, we're multiplying an M by N matrix times N by P matrix. So in order to be able to multiply these must be the same. If these are different, you cannot multiply the matrices. Okay, now if these are the same, then you can multiply the matrices, and the product then is going to be an M by P matrix. Okay, so the insides tell you whether or not you can multiply them. The outsides tell you the size of the matrix when you do multiply them. All right, so in example 1, we're just going to say whether or not these matrices can be multiplied, and if they are, the dimension of the product that we get. Okay, so we have to find the rows and columns. We have to find what the size of this matrix. So it has 2 rows and 3 columns. So we would say this is a 2 by 3 matrix. And then this one is 3 rows by 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So this is a 3 by 4 matrix. Okay, now because this matches with this, that means I can multiply these two matrices. And when I do multiply these two matrices, the product will be a 2 by 4 matrix. Okay, let's look at B down here. Okay, so I want to find the size and dimensions of matrix A and B. So this once again is a 2 by 3, and this is also a 2 by 3. Okay, so the first thing I want to see is, can we multiply them? Well, notice these two are different, and therefore we cannot find the product. All right, let's look at C. Okay, so once again, the dimensions of C, this is a 2 by 1, and this is a 1 by 3. So to check to see if we can multiply them, this and this must match, which they do. And because those two match, I can multiply them, and the product will be a 2 by 3 matrix. So yes, comma, 2 by 3 matrix will be the product. Okay. Last one, this is a 2 by 2 matrix. This is a 2 by 3. Okay, once again, because these match, yes, I can find the product. Okay, but to be able to see what size of matrix I get, it's going to be a 2 by 3. So the product will be a 2 by 3 matrix. Okay, so let's look at example 2, and I'm actually going to multiply these two matrices. Okay, so A is a 2 by 2 matrix, and B is also a 2 by 2 matrix. Because these two numbers here match, I know I can multiply them, and when I do multiply them, my product is also going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. All right, so let's look at how we do this. Once again, this is a pretty tedious task. Okay, 2 by 2s aren't that bad. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the first row here by the first column. Okay, so I'm going to say 3 times -1, so first element and first element, and then I'm going to add to that second element and second element, so 2 times 6. Okay, now I'm going to take the second row and multiply it by the same column. Okay, so this is going to be a -7 times a -1 plus 8 times 6. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the first row, but this time I'm going to multiply the second column of the second matrix. Okay, so this would be 3 times 4 plus 2 times 5. Then I'm going to stay with the second column of the second matrix, but I'm going to move the second row of the first matrix, and this would be a -7 times 4 plus 8 times 5. Okay, now all I have to do is simplify this. So 3 times -1 is -3 plus 2 times 6 is 12. -7 times -1 is a +7 plus 6 times 8 is 48. Over here I have a 12 plus 10 and then a -28 plus 40. And if I reduce that a little bit more, -3 plus 12 is 9. 7 plus 48 is 55. 12 times 10 is 22, and then -28 plus 40 is 12. This would be my product. All right, so let's look at B now. Okay, so I have a 2 by 2 matrix, and I'm going to multiply it by a 2 by 1 matrix. Okay, so once again, I want to check these match, so I can definitely find the product, and then I will end up with a 2 by 1 matrix as my product. Okay, so when I do this, it's the same process as before. Okay, I'm going to take my first row of my first matrix, and I'm going to multiply it by my first or my only row of my second matrix. So this is going to be -3 times 4 plus my second element, -1 times 7. Okay, now I'm going to do my second row of my first matrix times the only column of my second matrix. So this would be a 2 by 4 plus a 5 times 7. So this would be -12. A -1 plus or times 7 is -7. And this is 8 plus 35, which I get then -19, and what is that? 43. And this here is my product. Okay, so let's now go down to C. Okay, this is when it gets a little bit confusing. Okay, so the process is still the same. We're just going to get a bigger product, okay? Once again, this is extremely tedious, so extremely easy to make a mistake. So here we have a 3 by 2 matrix, okay, and here we have a 2 by 3 matrix. Okay, so these are the same, which means I can multiply them and find the product, and when I do, the result will be a 3 by 3 matrix. Okay, so once again, we're getting a little bit bigger. Process is the same. Okay, I'm going to take my first row here and multiply it by my first column here. Okay, so I have 3 times -1 plus -4 times -6. Okay, then I'm going to take my second row and multiply it by my first column. So 6 times -1 plus 5 times -6. Now I'm going to take my third row and multiply it by my first column still. So 1 times -1 plus 0 times -6. Okay, so I have my first column set in my product matrix. All right, So now I've taken care of my first column in the second matrix. So now I'm going to look at my second column. So I want to multiply it by my first row first. So 3 times 7 plus -4 times 2. Okay, then I'm going to go to my second row of my first matrix. So it's going to be 6 times 7 plus 5 times 2. And then I'm going to go down to my third row of my first matrix. And I have now 1 times 7 plus 0 times 2. Okay, so now I've taken care of my second column of my second matrix. So now I'm going to be done to my last column. Okay, so I'm going to do my first row of my first matrix first. So I have 3 times -2 plus -4 times 4. Okay, so that's my first row. Then I'm going to go to my second row. So it's 6 times -2 plus 5 times 4. And last but not least, I go to my final row of my first matrix. See if I can, there we go. So my 1 and my 0. So I have 1 times -2 plus 0 times 4. Okay, so now all I need to do is clean it up. Okay, so this is -3 plus 24. I'm going to go down here. So -6 minus 30. And 1 times -1 is -1 plus 0. Okay, so that's my first column. My second column, I have 21 minus 8, 42 plus 10, and a 7 plus 0. Okay, and then last but not least, I have -6 minus 16. I have -12 plus 20, and -2 plus 0. Okay, clean it up just a little bit more. -3 plus 24 is 21. -6 minus 30 is -36. -1 down here. I have a 13, 52, and 7. And then I finally have a -22, a +8, and a -2. And this here is my 3 by 3 product of the two matrices.